Hey folks, welcome back. I hope you're ready for an all-new edition of a series I like to call Did They Wang It? Where I look at a remake and compare it to the original to figure out something, I don't know. Last time I looked at SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom and compared it to its remake, which was called Rehydrated. And I ended up firmly sat on the fence, which is kind of like a standard for this YouTube channel. Today, however, we're going nuts. We're looking at Pokemon. Lord give us strength. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. Well, good fucking luck, kid. I hope you like catching nearly 1,000 of these goddamn things. What do you even want me to say about Pokemon? What even is there to say? It's one of the most popular and long-running media franchises of all time. Pokemon transcends culture and language. No matter how little you care about Pokemon, just look at this. You know what this is. Don't fucking lie to me. Pokemon is one of those things that's very 50-50. You either love it or hate it. And I think a lot of the time that comes down to whether or not you were into it as a kid. I always see people arguing about Pokemon, whether or not they're actually good games or if you're just blinded by nostalgia. So it begs the question, is Pokemon actually a good game franchise? Well, that's not the point. I fucking love Pokemon, man. I've played them all. Red, Blue, Yellow, Stadium, Silver, Gold, Stadium 2, Crystal, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Leaf Green, FireRed, Coliseum, XD, Mystery Dungeon, Diamond, Pearl, Battle Evolution. Yeah, there's so many goddamn Pokemon games, man. Frankly, I found myself unable to keep track in recent years. I feel like we're getting to the point where there are so many Pokemon that it's pushing the limits of what a normal human brain is capable of storing. Like, I don't know what this thing is, and I refuse to learn. That said, I still love Pokemon. Every time a new one comes out, I always get it and put a considerable amount of hours into it. But I do think it's true that one's enjoyment of the game is largely influenced by whether or not they were into it as a kid. Like, imagine trying to get into Pokemon now. Hi, welcome to the world of Pokemon. Here's a few tips to get you started. Pokemon is essentially a creature collection RPG. There are a total of 898 Pokemon, all of whom fall into one or two different types. These types determine what moves they can learn and also what attacks are weak or strong against them. Here's a type chart. It's imperative that you memorize this if you want to succeed in this game. Basically, the main goal is beating the 8 gyms and then beating the 4 Elite Four, followed by the champion, all of which use different types of Pokemon, which means that you need to balance your team out with different types. Also, Pokemon evolve. Most of the time they evolve through level, but sometimes they evolve through different means, like using items, or trading them with items, or happiness depending on the time of day. Some Pokemon only evolve based on their gender, or they evolve differently based on their gender. Some of them have branching evolutions. There's a whole bunch of strategy that goes into it. Now that the introduction is out of the way, let's go through lesson 1 out of 38. We'll begin with natures. You see, every Pokemon has a specific— Jesus Christ, man, slow down. Why do I need a university degree to play a video game made for children? With all this nonsense, sometimes it's comforting to go back to the basics, you know? So let's take a trip back to the Stone Age and look at Pokemon Red and Blue version. Pokemon Red and Green version were released on the good old Game Boy exclusively in Japan on February 27th, 1996. And they sold like fucking crazy, man. People were dying left and right of Pokemon fever. It was nuts. In response to this, Nintendo released an enhanced version of the two games called Pokemon Blue, which would later be released outside of Japan as Pokemon Red and Blue versions. Are you confused? Good. I think you being confused is confirmation that your brain works properly. Now look, if you're not a Pokemon fan, you're probably thinking, what is this? Why are there two games here? Well, you see, every new generation of Pokemon games comes with two versions of the same game with slight variations. Now, of course, that begs the question, why release two games at the same time rather than just releasing one game? Why do you think? Basically, the only differences between Red and Blue are some of the Pokemon you can catch. The Pokemon exclusive to Red version are Ekans and Arbok, Oddish, Gloom and Vileplume, Mankey and Primeape, Growlithe and Arcanine, Scyther, and Electabuzz. And the exclusives in the Blue version are Sandshrew and Sandslash, Bellsprout, Weepinbell and Victreebel, Meowth and Persian, Vulpix and Ninetales, Pinsir, and Magmar. I guess you could say it comes down to personal preference, but I mean, look at these two. Which one are you picking? There is a correct answer. Anyway, I feel like I've dicked you around enough. Let's get into it, baby. Pokemon Red version. You know the drill. Professor Oak tells you about Pokemon, he forgets his grandson's name, and then he lets you pick a really overpowered starter Pokemon and sends you, a 10-year-old boy, off into the Kanto region to engage in a series of magical cockfights. The starters this time around are Charmander, Squirtle, and the best starter, full stop, Bulbasaur. To be fair, this is a really solid trio of starters. In most of the games there's at least one starter that's kinda whatever, but all three of the Kanto starters are good all the way through. You can kinda see these three as different difficulties in the game, at least early on. Charmander is hard mode, because he's actually weak against the first two gyms, Rock and Water both being super effective against Fire. Squirtle is normal difficulty, because he can easily carry you through the first gym, but is generally pretty useless against the second gym since it's water. And I mean, he's also weak against the third and fourth gyms, being electric and grass respectively. Although it's probably reasonable to assume that you'll have a bit of a team built by then. And then finally you got easy mode Bulbasaur. Being a grass type, this little dude is strong against rock and water, and he's resistant to electricity. That's not why he's my favorite though, it's because he's cute. I'm good at video games. But anyway, it's a huge world full of all kinds of different Pokemon to catch. Kind of. Yeah, considering there's 151 Pokemon in this generation, it's kind of hard to find anything worth using. I hope you like Pidgeys and Rattatas. Honestly, I have no idea what the hell they expect you to do against Brock if you pick Charmander. You can't really catch anything worth using in the routes before his gym. In fact, the only thing you can catch that won't get absolutely bodied by his Geodude and his Onix are Rattata. And his only offensive move is Tackle, which is weak against Rock. It definitely gets better from there, but while playing I found myself surprised at how shallow the pool of available Pokemon was. Like, I get that this was Gen 1, but like, come on man, look at the difference in available Pokemon between Red and Yellow. Gotta catch them all. How am I supposed to catch them all when the first 6 routes only have 3 available Pokemon each? And at least one of those slots is taken up by fucking Pidgeys every time, Jesus. To be fair, there's Mount Moon pretty early on, where you can catch a Geodude. His and Ghastly's final forms, Golem and Gengar, are generally a couple of my go-to Pokemon. But unfortunately, in order to evolve them, you have to trade them with a Game Boy Link cable. And in my most recent run, I was playing this on an emulator. Okay, look, I already know what you're thinking. I can't believe you, Ben. How dare you illegally procure a copy of a video game made 25 years ago by a multi-billion-dollar company? Don't you know that the correct, morally ethical thing to do would be to take out a bank loan so that you could buy a Super Nintendo, a Super Game Boy, and a physical copy of a game that has a battery that probably doesn't work anymore? And you know what? I agree. I can't defend my actions. If Nintendo goes out of business sometime in the near future, you can blame me. But then there's the combat, right? The main course. That's what everyone's here for. Pokemon is essentially a turn-based JRPG, the difference being that you can only use one of your party members at a time. You get a 6 Pokemon party and you have the absolute freedom to build it however you want. If you want 6 Butterfrees, Godspeed to you. You're gonna get your balls rocked, but you know, hey, that was your ignoramus decision. But the thing is, whether or not you agree with me, the combat of Pokemon has changed a lot over the years. I guess you could say it's evolved. A lot of people like to rag on Pokemon for making the same game over and over, but to be fair, they've changed a lot to the combat. Generation 2 added hold items, Dark and Steel types, and also the special defense stat, and Gen 3 had abilities and double battles and so on. At the very least, each game makes minor tweaks that change the game a little bit. Gen 1 on the other hand sucks. And look, I can't be too hard on Pokemon Red and Blue because obviously it's the first game. They're not gonna knock it out of the park the first time around. And to be fair, these games were pretty astounding given the technology they were working with. But this game is just so amazingly unbalanced. Some Pokemon are just objectively better than others. It's a no-brainer to choose them. If you look at all the Gen 1 Pokemon by the different stats, it's the same names on top of the charts. Dragonite, Gyarados, the Evolutions, Gengar, Alakazam, etc. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, most of these Pokemon are at least somewhat difficult to get your hands on, so in a sense you kind of earned a strong one. But I don't know, I feel like it could have been made so that more Pokemon were at least a little bit more evenly useful. Like, why even bother with Porygon? He's cute, yes, but why would you want to use him? But that's a minor criticism. There is a decent amount of perfectly usable Pokemon in this game. And in general, when the lower level Pokemon suck, they usually are better when they evolve. The real issue with the balancing are types and moves. In particular, Psychic is almost comically overpowered in this game. These days, Psychic is weak to Bug, Dark, and Ghost, and strong against Fighting and Poison. Dark wasn't added as a type until Gold and Silver, and for some reason, Ghost literally does not affect Psychic. So that means that in Gen 1, Psychic is weak to one type of attack, that being Bug. Who doesn't love the Bug types? There are 4 Bug type moves, one of which doesn't do damage, 2 have 25 power, and the strongest one, Leech Life, can only be learned by one Pokemon that isn't weak to Psychic, that being Paris. Paris and Parasect aren't great Pokemon, let's be real here. I'm not saying that Psychic should have had a ton of weaknesses, but like, come on. It had to have been possible to balance it better than this. There's a Psychic Gym Leader. Am I expected to use Parasect for Sabrina and only Sabrina? I just don't get it. Most of the bug types in this gen are pretty cool. Scyther and Pinsir both have really good stats, but neither of them can learn bug type moves. What's the point? It's just funny to look back on this game and see how blatantly overpowered Psychic is. Like I said, Psychic is strong against Poison and Fighting, and accumulatively there's 41 Pokemon that have one of those types. That means that nearly 30% of the total pool of Pokemon is weak to Psychic. Like, why? But anyway, other than that, there's a few issues that this game has that people have pointed out. There's the fact that a lot of the sprites look really weird in comparison to how they're supposed to look. Perhaps the most famous example of this is the fact that in the original release, Coughing's skull and crossbones were above his face rather than below it. Honestly, it does kind of feel like the artists were given a description of a Pokemon, and then it was translated from Japanese to English, and then back to Japanese. Are you sure that's Pidgey? Because I disagree. Look at Exeggutor, man. Look at how they massacred my boy. Also, this game is insanely glitchy. Although, to be fair, it's mostly fun glitches. Like, it's pretty shocking to me how easy it is to activate the Missingno Glitch. All you have to do is activate the catching tutorial with the old man in Viridian, and then surf up and down the east coast of Cinnabar Island. Even without the glitch, this coast of Cinnabar is broken. I'm reasonably certain you're not supposed to find Tangalas and Pidgeottos in the water here. Also, I appear to have accidentally activated some glitch that gave me 99 revives, and I have no idea how. Could be worse, I guess. So that's Pokemon Red version. It's got a special appeal, and I understand why it's so important to a lot of people, but it has aged exceptionally poorly. But lucky for us Pokemon fans, there is a way that you can experience the Kanto region without spending a bunch of money on a bunch of classes to learn Ancient Sumerian, because in 2004, Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen were released on the Game Boy Advance. The third generation of Pokemon, baby. This shit felt revolutionary at the time. Pokemon Silver and Gold were more than suitable sequels to Red and Blue, sure, but they were clearly made in the same engine, and the graphics were pretty much the same apart from the colors. But Ruby and Sapphire were next gen. Beautiful graphics and colors, banging tunes. These games roundhouse kicked us into the future, baby. Considering this new standard had been set, everyone was like, this shit's not gonna cut it anymore. And so, a year later, the world was blessed with Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red. Full-on, no fucking around remakes of Pokemon Red and Blue. This is what we're talking about, baby. The Kanto region with none of the bullshit from Pokemon Red. Dark and Steel moves have been added to the mix, and Charmander learning Metal Claw at level 13 means you have a bit more of a fighting chance against Brock. Although it's still a challenge, because Rock Tomb can still fuck up Charmander pretty good. There aren't any Dark-type Pokemon available, but the introduction of Dark-type moves makes Psychic a lot more manageable. On top of that, Ghost is now super effective against Psychic, and there are a few actually fucking usable bug moves. Psychic is still really strong, but it's not as ridiculously overpowered as it was in the original games. Of course, that does unfortunately make Bug kinda useless, and I still feel bad for Poison type. Until Fairy type was introduced in Generation 6, Poison was always kinda the worst type. There's not much of a reason to use it. But you know what, this is a really model example of how to remake a game. It's just Red and Blue with lots of added stuff. Useful items introduced in previous games, such as the Experience Share and the Versus Tracker are here, which you can actually carry with you because you don't have a fucking inventory limit, for fuck's sake. You can still only catch the original 150 Generation 1 Pokemon, but the availability is much more akin to Pokemon Yellow than Red and Blue. Like, it feels actually possible to build a reasonably decent team relatively early on. But there is still the added difficulty of catching a really powerful Pokemon like Scyther, Pinsir, Magmar, Electabuzz, and Dratini, since you have a really low chance of coming across them in their respective areas. Plus, there's the addition of a lot of cool post-game content. After you beat the 7th gym, Bill, the guy who created the computer system that stuffs living creatures into a computer, approaches you and takes you on a boat to an island, brilliantly called One Island. From this point, you can go as far as 3 Island. And this area also includes Mount Ember, where you can find the legendary Pokemon Moltres, who used to hang out in Victory Road in the old games. Makes a lot more sense to me. Like, why would a bird want to live in a cave? But once you beat the Pokemon League, you unlock the ability to go to Islands 4 through 7, where you can catch a whole bunch of Pokemon introduced in Generation 2, which includes Lugia, Ho-Oh, and one of the 3 legendary dogs, Raikou, Entei, or Suicune. You can even catch Deoxys, which is super cool, because in Ruby and Sapphire, he's one of those stupid event Pokemon, where you can only get him if you send a letter with some of your blood on it to Game Freak's office. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows, baby. I am a miserable, pessimistic person, so let's examine some of the stuff I don't like. I love ending on a bad note. I don't have a ton of bad things to say about Leaf Green and Fire Red. I love these games, but it wouldn't be fair to shit all over Red and Blue and not point out some of the annoying things about its remakes. One glaring issue is the random battles. I'm usually kind of on the fence about this when it comes to older games. I mean, it seems obvious that there wouldn't have been room on a Game Boy cartridge to not have random battles, but I have a hard time believing that they couldn't have done away with random battles by the Game Boy Advance. Like, I mean, Earthbound, Chrono Trigger, and Secret of Mana came out 10 years before Leaf Green and Fire Red, and they didn't have random battles. Another thing that sucks about the older Pokemon games is that you have to level grind like crazy. It's kind of a tough thing because it's nice that they added the experience share in Pokemon X and Y that evenly distributes the experience, because you don't have to run back and forth in the same patch of grass fighting Pidgeys with all your Pokemon one by one. But at the same time, it significantly shortens the game. Although I feel like I get more out of a 20-hour game that's fun, as opposed to a 50-hour game where 30 hours of it is spent level grinding. At the very least, you could make it so that you do have to level grind, but balance the experience out so that you don't have to individually level up each Pokemon at a time. Like, grinding is fucking annoying when you're training a Pokemon who doesn't have any moves that are useful against the wild Pokemon in the area. Another thing that's kinda lame is the music. And don't get me wrong, the music is amazing, but they felt the need to remake the originals to a T. This of course means that the music is entirely the same, and as a result there's things like reused tracks, which is kinda lame. Like, the Elite Four members just use the gym leader battle music, and battles with Team Rocket members don't even have unique music. It's just the trainer battle theme. Obviously it made sense in the Game Boy games, it was to save space on the cartridge. cartridge, but I don't see why they couldn't have composed a few new songs since they were working with better technology. Also, this is a very minor thing, but one thing that I actually prefer in Red and Blue over FireRed and LeafGreen is the puzzle in Koga's gym. In the new games, it's just a completely invisible wall. It's a pain in the ass. But in the old games, it's an almost entirely invisible wall, but you can see the outlines, which is kinda nice. It's still a puzzle, but it's less lazy and stupid. That's Pokemon, baby! I love me some fucking Pokemon. So what do we think, fellas? Did they wang it? No. What are you, stupid? FireRed and LeafGreen are just objectively better games. You can play as a girl, the combat is balanced, there's a lot more moves, there's more types, there's post-game content up the ass, the visuals and the music are beautiful. It's just a no-brainer. There's simply no reason to play Pokemon Red anymore. So there you have it, folks. Not only do I use emulators, but I also make YouTube videos shitting on everybody's favorite childhood game. Surely there is no more heinous act for me to commit. You don't have to look so disappointed.